witches.
Hi, hello, and welcome back to another Folklore.
Not Emily over there laughing at her own joke.
I was also laughing because the last time I went to go hit the record button, the search bar, I got too close to the search bar down below, and you know how it always has like a picture of like something for that day. It's got
Yeah.
strawberries today, and I was like, "Oh, is today like strawberry day or something like that? Should I have like a bowl of strawberries?" And then it wouldn't go away, so I was trying to hit like the record button, and I was like, "Get out of my way!"
Why
I'm
are
like,
there strawberries there?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I didn't click on it, but it normally says like strawberry day, but it just says strawberry showstoppers, and I was like,
It
"Okay."
does.
So
Interesting.
I was laughing at my joke, and then I was remembering that, and I was laughing at that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anyway, we're still in the Norse pantheon. And today I am talking about Thor. Excuse me. I'm tired.
I'm sorry. Am I boring you?
Yes.
That's fucking rude. Damn. Shit.
No, I feel like we already talked about why I'm tired today.
True.
There goes a lady with the lawnmower walking past the window. Okay, that's happened.
I had
Um,
a homeless man walk up to our door the other day with like a
oh, it was
giant.
Brittany.
It was Brittany.
Yeah,
I thought it was some random person.
no, it was
I,
Brittany.
oh, I was gonna say, no, I had we had a homeless guy come up to our store the other day, and I looked out the door and I just saw like a giant like grill being like wheeled up to the door,
What?
and I was like, the fuck is that? And then I saw the guy and I was like, where the fuck did he get a grill? Because he's in there a lot. Like he'll buy something and then he'll come back and like return it. I don't know. And I'm just like, the fuck? The hell? Where did he get a grill?
What is
It's like a
happening?
used grill. And it looks like it doesn't look like a grill. And there's like a lot of restaurants around us, but it doesn't look like a grill you would get from a restaurant. It looks like a grill that you would get from like a backyard. Like it's a
He
homeowner
just
kind of like grill.
stole somebody's grill.
I don't, dude, that thing is huge. Like, good luck to that person, like wheeling that away.
Yikes.
But
Well,
anyways,
so Thor.
the god of
So
thunder.
I was running extremely late. Like I was not running late, but I was procrastinating with my research this week. So I literally researched this like an hour before we started recording the last episode.
Oh, good. Wait,
So
what? Oh, good, because you
no,
know
like
what?
this. Yeah,
I started researching 5 minutes before last time.
yeah. Like while like
On
like an
par.
hour before we recorded the last episode today, I did my research. So I only used mainly one source. I kind of like corroborated things with other sources, but in the like main epic poems, which I forget what their names are right now, but um
Like the pure Edda or something like that.
I think one was called like the Snorton, something like that.
Oh, he's Snorri
Snorri,
Sturluson.
yeah. Yeah, that. Um that guy's poem. Um
Prose Edda.
yes. Described Thor as having red hair and a beard. Which is funny because all of the artwork of Thor, he's blonde. Like all of it. I did not find a single artwork of Thor with red hair. So that made me chuckle. But being a redhead, I had to talk about it. Everybody calls him the god of thunder, but he's actually the god of storms. I mean, basically the same thing, but nuance. um, and he can wield lightning and thunder. He also was associated with fertility, though, because, and I quote, his prodigious sexual appetite, and his aptitude for impregnating women.
Okay.
Right? Well, okay, so like Thor is the equivalent to like Jupiter in the Roman pantheon, which is the equivalent to Zeus in Greek. So like it is like the same.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Um he had a warhammer called Mjolnir, and if you didn't already fucking know that, then I need you to go back to the one of the first fucking episodes that we did and listen again because but anyway, he fully embodied the hero archetype, whereas like we talked about last time, Odin and Loki were more of like the sneaky Slytherin types, and Thor's over here being full on Gryffindor energy. um
He's the sneaky snake.
all right.
You enjoyed that.
Sure I did.
You laugh, you enjoyed it.
Um, the name Thor, which I did not look up the pronunciation in Old Norse, but it's spelled with a weird symbol. I'm pretty sure it still said Thor. Might be Thor, but similar. And in Old Saxon, it's Thunar, which all of those things mean thunder, which is why people call him the god of thunder, even though technically he's the god of storms.
I mean, storms and thunder, same thing.
Yeah. I mean, one is a byproduct of the other, but he's fine. It's fine.
I didn't know that then. That was too much science. They would be burned at the stake.
Right? Jesus. When the Germanic peoples adopted the Roman calendar in the early centuries of the Common Era, they replaced the day called Dies Lovis, which was the day of Jupiter, with Thanares Dagas, or Thor's Day, which in modern English, it still survives in Thursday. That's Thor's Day, Thursday. In addition to Mjolnir, his fancy hammer, which could resurrect the dead. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Apparently, Mjolnir could resurrect the dead. It makes sense because, like, he wields lightning through it. So, like, it kind of makes sense to me that he could, like, jumpstart a heart or something with it. But anyway.
Oh, kind of like Frankenstein's monster, like the way he.
Yeah. So, it could resurrect the dead, but only in certain cases. Like, it doesn't describe what those certain cases are, but only in certain cases. He also had two other two or three other things that he was known for having. One of them is a magical belt called Medjingjord, which literally translates to power belt, which doubles his strength, which he's already super strong. So then this belt doubles his strength. And then he had, excuse me, jeez, gloves called, they were iron gloves named Yarn Gripper, which literally translates to iron grippers, because he needed them to wield his hammer. And those three items are the ones most associated with him in like the lore and the myths and all of that. But he also had a staff known as Gridarvol. Yep, that's how you pronounce it. True fact. But nothing really describes what that staff does. So I don't know if it's literally just like a walking stick or if it has magical properties. Don't know. But he has one and it has a name. So felt like it was important. Thor literally hung out with like his two servants. Like those were his two little best friends. Thjalfi and Roskva. So that's kind of weird, but whatever. And then here's where the weirdness with his Mjolnir resurrection powers comes in. He rides in a chariot pulled by two goats, Tansgrisnir and Tangsjostir. That's not how you pronounce that. I can tell you that right now. But Tangnjoster. They're two goats, and they pull his chariot, which I just love. Like, Greek mythology is all about like Pegasi and like these beautiful stallions and all of these things. And the Norse are like, yeah, he's got a fucking goat. Like, it's fine. So he has two goats. He uses these goats in not only to pull his chariot, but he also frequently will just kill them, eat them, and then resurrect them with Mjolnir. So like it's a continuous food supply, and power source for his chariot. And Emily's face right now says it all. Like, what the fuck? Right, especially because like these are like, I mean, he takes them everywhere with him. They go into war with him. So these are essentially like his pets, right? And he just fucking kills them and eats them and then brings them back to life. It's fine. No big deal. And then he has like his own house, like in all of the pop culture things that he's in. I feel like we see him living in Asgard with Odin, but that's not actually the case. He has his own house called Ilskirnir. Ilskirnir? Yeah. And it was said to be the largest building ever built, and it had a grand total of 540 rooms. It is in Asgard, but it is in the middle of a random field that I am not even going to kind of pronounce correctly, but it looks like Pruavanger. Pruavanger? I don't know. It's got Norse characters in it that I don't know what they actually like. It kind of looks like a P, but it also kind of looks like a tongue sticking out. Like, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I can't tell you exactly how to pronounce it. But that is where his house was, and that he had his own house. That's the point there. Then his family tree. Obviously, his dad is Odin. I feel like we've talked about that many times. The last episode was about Odin. So obviously we talked about that. His mom was Jord, who is a Jotun, which makes it super fucking weird because he's like super anti-Jotun. So, but like his mom was one. And then later he has a child with one. It's weird. But Odin also has many, or Odin, Thor also has many half brothers, like lots of half brothers. So, and these are just the famous ones. So via
like
Odin,
brothers via mom, or no,
both.
you're about to say it. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't think you were going to get it.
Balder, Vali, and Vidar are all with like on Odin's side, and then Jord had Tyr, Heimdall, Bragi, and Hodor. So again, there, like one of his half brothers is also half Jotun, but he's still got like this huge like hatred of the Jotun, which is super weird. And those are only, yeah, those are only his like famous half siblings. He has others, and I'm sure with how his parents were, there were probably some half sisters in there too that just didn't have any notoriety. Like yes. Then he marries Sif, which is a goddess associated with faith, family, and fertility, which I feel like we've talked about her before, but I don't remember. And they had a daughter named Thrud. I spelled it wrong anyway because I wrote a Thudr. So I spelled it wrong anyway. But she also, like, according to the lore, may or may not have become a Valkyrie. It's unclear, but we're going to go with it because I like that version of the story best. And that's what we do in America. Outside of his
In the
marriage.
I think in the game in Thor Ragnarok, she didn't become a Valkyrie because Ragnarok happened.
Oh,
She
that
became
makes
a
sense.
Valkyrie in her own like way, I think, but that's just because she
Yeah,
escaped because her dad died.
right. Yeah. Which I'm going to talk about that too. um, but outside of his marriage, so like he had one daughter with Sif, and then outside of his marriage, he had a regular lover named Yarn Saxa, who was a Jotun. Bitch! Like, do you have mommy issues? What is happening? Um, so he had one son with her, and this was like a continual relationship. This was not a one night stand. Like, this was not a hate fuck. He literally had a continual relationship with this being. And they had a son named Magni, which means strength. And then because he's Thor and the equivalent of Zeus, he's a man whore. And the quote had many casual lovers and one night stands. Um, at least one of those encounters produced a son named Mjodi, which means courage. And we don't know who his mom was. Um, and I'm sure that there were other children as well because, like, really, he just had 3 kids with all of those encounters.
Yeah.
But then I'm gonna just do a couple of the myths or like stories that involve Thor. Some of them I think, or one of them I think we've already talked about, and then the last one is Ragnarok. Um, so one of his, and this is not my words, this is the words of the source. One of Thor's more embarrassing adventures was precipitated by the theft of Mjolnir. So basically, someone stole Mjolnir, and Thor was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So he went to the other gods and asked for help, and they agreed to help him. So Loki borrowed Freya's falcon cloak and flew away to find the hammer. He found it. Thrym, the king of the Jotnar and lord of Jotunheim, had it. And he said he would give it back for Freya's hand in marriage. The gods were obviously like, fuck that. We're not doing that. Um, so they all come back together to come up with like a plan. And Heimdall is like, Thor should dress up as Freya and Loki as her servant, and they're going to go to Jotunheim and um, pretend that they're offering her in marriage to get Mjolnir back. So they go there, and well, first of all, Thor's like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not dressing up like a woman, putting on a bridal veil. I'm not doing all that because, fragile masculinity. Loki, though, was like, get over it. Your dick's not that big. Let's do this. And talks him into doing it. So they dress him up. They put like jewels and stuff all over him. They give him Freya's necklace, which has a name, Brisagamon. They cover his face with a bridal veil because he's going there to be his bride, right? And they get all ready and they go to Jotunheim and they're in Thrym's, like, I don't know, throne room or whatever. Thinking that Thor is Freya, his bride, he's like, yeah, come on in. Here's food. Here's drink. And Thor fucking gorges himself. Like, he's like, um, eats like a whole ox, a bunch of fish, like drinks 3 whole casks of mead, and what's his face is like, oh gosh, Thrym is like, ooh, like what the hell? um, and Loki's like, oh, she hasn't slept in 8 days. She was so excited to get here, like she's just extra hungry because she hasn't slept. And Thrym's like, sounds legit. And they go on, and Thrym's sister is like, okay, let's do this. Let's have this wedding. So Thrym gets Mjolnir and puts it on Freya's lap because, that was the deal. And Thor just starts laughing and literally murders the entire wedding party. Like, Whole fucking wedding party, just dead, except for him and Loki. Dead. Including Thrym's sister, which was like an old woman. Like, I mean, old Jotun, I guess, but still, she was like ancient. So that's one myth involving Thor, which is actually really fucking funny, and I kind of want like
You get to
the
play
cast of
that,
Avengers to fucking do it. Like,
right? You actually play that in a Ragnarok, or
really
in the show. Yeah, you not as Thor, as like you play the Thor character though.
nice. So yeah. Anyway, we can talk about gaming systems more later. Actually, now that that pops into my head. But anyway, the next myth that I have or story that involves Thor is, again, Thor despised the Jotnar, and he just, especially the ice giants. Um, he eventually gets into an entanglement with Hrungnir. Is that Hrungnir? We're
I
gonna
have no
call him
idea.
that. I feel like they usually make the U have the oo sound in that language, so we're gonna go with Hrungnir. So this story starts when Thor is away slaying trolls because apparently that's like his favorite fucking thing to do. Um, he is in Jotunheim looking for trolls. Um, and he runs into Hrungnir and challenges him to a race. Why? I don't fucking know, but he did. Um, and so they raced all the way to the gates of Asgard. They got there and they invited um, Hrungnir in to Asgard for a drink. I don't know why. We don't fucking like him, so why would I don't understand, but it's fine. Um so he drinks a whole lot, they get him drunk, and then he's like, I'm gonna topple Valhalla and raise Asgard to the ground, I'm gonna kill all the gods, and I'm gonna steal Freya and she's gonna be my wife. Everybody wants to marry Freya, apparently. So there's the thing. And Thor's like, I don't fucking think so. And he picks up Mjolnir to like kill Hrungnir. Um, but Hrungnir is like, oh, you're gonna kill an unarmed man? What a coward. And Thor's like, you're right. You can go back to Jotunheim. It's fine. Um, and Hrungnir chooses to arm himself with a massive whetstone, like that you sharpen your fucking knives on. What? Why would that be what you choose as a weapon? But whatever, it's fine. So Thor is obviously following him, and he throws his hammer at Hrungnir from afar. In response, Hrungnir throws the whetstone at Thor, and they like collide in midair, but the stone shatters into pieces because it's fucking Mjolnir, um, which continues on in the air and hits Hrungnir in his head, and he dies. But when the stone broke apart, part of it like lodged itself in Thor's skull. And the gods all like summon a healer. Her name is Groa, the wife of Orvindil the Valiant, she started to draw the stone from Thor's head. Um, During this, though, Thor's like talking about he knew her husband, who was, I believe, dead at this point. Excuse me. But instead of like making her feel better and encouraged, this made her sad, and she couldn't do the work anymore. So she could not get the thing out of his head. So it's just chilling in there, and most of the like epics or poems or whatever say that that piece of stone was still in his skull until Ragnarok. The next story about Thor, he was once again hunting trolls. um, in this one, I believe we talked about before. This is the one where he's like, I'll build the palace capable of withstanding any attack by the Jotnar. All I want in exchange is the sun, the moon, and Freya's hand in marriage. And basically, the story goes that they're like, yeah, that's fine. There's no fucking way he's going to be able to do that. And then he it's almost summer, right? Like, because he has to finish by the first day of summer. So they're like, there's no way he's going to be able to fucking do that. And then he's getting close. Like, he's almost done. So Loki transforms himself into a mare and, like, seduces the giant's horse, and he needs the horse to do the work, and, like, um, takes the horse away, yada yada. So the giant's fucking pissed, right? And the other gods go to Thor for protection, and Thor comes and kills him. And that's, like, the whole story. But, like, basically the whole story is that the gods made a deal with a giant and he was going to win. So they got pissed and threw a temper tantrum and had Thor kill the giant. That's the moral of the story there, basically. And then there are a couple other stories about, or there's another story about Thor and Jormungandr, the sea serpent of Midgard. Basically, they fought a couple times. Like, one of the stories, or yeah, one of the stories is the one that we already talked about in a previous. When we talked about Midgard, we talked about the serpent of Midgard. So we've already talked about that one. And then the last thing is Thor at Ragnarok, and actually, this story also involves Jormungandr. Um, During Ragnarok, the Ragnarok begins by the serpent of Midgard releasing its tail from its mouth and wriggling onto dry land. Um, so that happens, and then it joins its brother Fenrir, which these are both Loki's children, by the way. um, who would set the wolf is going to set the world aflame, and Jormungandr is going to fill the air with poison. Thor comes to kill Jormungandr. He does succeed in killing him, but he also gets, like, bitten, basically. So he kills the serpent, takes 9 steps, exactly 9 steps, and then falls and dies. So the exact line in the epic, or the poetic Edda, is 9 paces fares the son of Fjorgen, and slain by the serpent, fearless he sinks. So basically, he died in battle, and there we go. He's dead by the Jormungandr. But he also killed Jormungandr. So that is Thor and Ragnarok. That is Thor all the way around. There are many more stories about Thor, but I figured we would probably get to them as we got to the other gods and goddesses, because a lot of them include them. So I kind of skipped over them.
Yeah, I feel like Thor is involved in a lot.
Yeah.
So um
I feel like Loki's the same way.
yeah, I mean, Loki is very
He's got his hands in everything, man.
yeah, he's very involved in a lot of things. Give me 1 second. My thing started acting up, so I'm trying to fix it real quick.
But also, like, I feel like Marvel glorified Thor and Odin a whole lot. Well, I guess they kind of told a little bit of Odin true, but, like, Odin was much smarter and sneakier than they portrayed him in the Marvel movies. And Thor was a lot more bloodthirsty and not kind. That, like, I feel like in the Marvel movies they portrayed him as, like, a really nice, helpful guy. And that
And
is
he's
not,
not.
no, that is not him. They
No.
described him multiple times in the poem as bloodthirsty.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like Loki is very similar, but like in his own way. Um, I I would say Loki is very he's got the chaotic energy going, so that's all about him. But he is a um he is the son of Farbati, who is a Jotun, and Laufey. Laufey is just she's not necessarily she's not listed as anything other than just like a goddess. That's all she's mentioned as, so it doesn't specify who or what she is. Um, she's just the mother of Loki. She is the or Loki is the brother of Helblindi and Byleister. Loki is married to Sigyn, and they have two sons, um, Narfi or Nari and Vali. By the Jotun Angerboda, Loki is the father of Hel, the wolf Fenrir, and the world serpent Jormungandr. In the form of a mare, he's a shapeshifter. I didn't really get to that part yet, but he's a shapeshifter. He's also, in the terms of the shapeshifter, he's able to shift his like appearance, his I don't want to say his gender because he is a shapeshifter. So yeah, he can shape his gender, but like truly form his gender, I don't know. But he shapeshifted into a mare, and Loki was actually impregnated by a stallion called Svardafari, and gave birth to the
I
eight-legged
wonder if that's
horse
the same stallion from the story I was talking about.
Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse.
I think, well, maybe not. I don't know. I think so.
Yeah,
Mine
Sleipnir.
doesn't say the name.
Um, so depending on the source that you have is going to depend on his relation to the gods. So sometimes he'll assist the gods and sometimes he behaves maliciously towards them. It really depends, from what I'm seeing, what's in it for him. So um sometimes he will appear in the shape of a salmon, a mare, a fly. There was a story of him being an elderly woman. He's got positive relations with the gods, only specifically because of his role in the death of the god Balder. Um, uh, well, he had positive relations, but they ended when he helped engineer the death of the god Balder, and that ended up leading to Odin specifically, um, his son Vali binding Loki with the entrails of one of his other sons, which
It's
we'll get to
fine.
that. It there's like the problem is that his stories, like the stories that I found, are so long. I and there's so many different things happening. I couldn't sum it up very well, and I was honestly trying to get Copilot to sum it up for me because I was struggling just trying to understand anything that was happening. Because it
That's
was,
why I just did mine the way I did it, because I have a lot more words written than I actually said out loud. I felt
yeah.
like Olaf Presents, like Olaf telling a Disney
Honestly
story.
though, um, God, that's such a good show.
It really is.
Anyways, um, so in the Prosa Edda, Nari or Narfi is killed by another son of Loki who is also called Vali. Um, the goddess Skaldi is responsible for placing a serpent above him while he is bound, and the serpent drips venom from above him that Sigyn collects into a bowl. However, she must empty the bowl when it is full, and then the venom that drips in the meantime causes Loki to writhe in pain, thereby causing earthquakes. So, in the Greek mythology, you know Prometheus, when he gave fire to humans and he was like bound to the rock, and like the eagle would eat his entrails every day.
Yeah.
Kind of the same ordeal here. All because um he killed somebody. Like one person, just one person.
It's fine.
Um, but so with the onset of Ragnarok, um, because in some of the stories he continues to be on the rock regardless of Ragnarok. In other stories, it is actually told that he slips free because of everything that's happening. He is able to slip free and either join the war or like do whatever he does best. Um, but in the most the one that's mostly used is that he fights against the gods among the forces of the Jotnar, at which time he will encounter the god Heimdall, and the two will slay each other. He is referenced quite a bit in a lot of the poetic eddas, or the poems of from the 13th century, in earlier traditional sources. But in most, if not all of them, he is actually known as the trickster god. He is depicted in a variety of media in modern popular culture as the trickster. But his origins and role in Norse mythology is actually widely debated by scholars. They aren't necessarily like 100% sure where it started, how it started, all of those things. And his name has actually been extensively debated. So his Old Norse name, Logi, Logi, means flame. But there's not like a lot of linguistic basis for this. So a lot of people are saying that um, other Scandinavian variants of the name were actually like point to the origin of the Germanic root Luk, like Loki, which denoted things to like with loops, like knots, hooks, all of that kind of thing, like locks. So this corresponds with usages such as like the Swedish is um Lockenat, in the Faroese. It's like the Faroes islands. It's like the like a Scandinavian island. Um Lockenet, it's like cobweb, it's like locks webs, um or like spiders or whatever. Um ew. But so they'll also sometime they'll also like use his name as like cobwebby kind of thing, which makes sense because he's like a trickster. He's kind of like spindly, I guess, in a way.
I get
Not
it.
in a
I get where you're going. Like that's his
Yeah,
aesthetic.
yeah. Um, like he's weaving. That's what I'm getting going with. He's like weaving chaos is what it is. Um, so it has been suggested that this association with closing could point to his, you know, the role in Ragnarok and the apocalyptic end. But I guess there was quite a bit of evidence that Loki in pre modern society was thought to be the causer of knots, tangles, loops, or himself. So, like, if you ever have like a knot in your hair, knot in your clothes, knot in your like items or whatever, some people believe that it was Loki visiting you. Um, it is like he himself is a knot or a tangle, because it's annoying. It's a trick of whatever.
Right.
Um, so he is the also known as the inventor of the fishnet because it also consists of loops and knots. Uh, and the word Loki is a term for the makers of cobwebs, spiders, and the like. It's not prominent in a lot of the older sources, like the oldest sources known. Um, but this identity as a tangler may be like I can never say this word, etymological,
Etymology. Yeah.
yeah, meaning of his name. Um, but um, so his name is actually like alternatively he's referred to as Lopter, which is considered Old Norse for air, but Loki also means like fire.
Hmm.
But it can mean like
Interesting.
cobwebs, like depending on like what part of the words that you're like
Right.
looking at, or like what he's being called could mean like what he is. But it doesn't necessarily say like what he's the god of, other than that he's a trickster god. Like to me, he honestly gives what's the trickster ghost from like I keep wanting to say Greaves from Harry Potter.
Peeves.
Peeves. Yeah, honestly, he reminds me of Peeves. Like just there,
I
not
could see
really
that.
having much to do with anything, but just there. Uh, let's see. He also has another word or name like Hevedringer. It's also used in reference to Loki, not necessarily that's like they don't call him that. That's just in reference to him. Um, it's occurring in names for hell, uh, and it's in reference to Fenrir. So like in a couple of proses, there's specific words in there that are used to reference hell, him, and Fenrir. And those are the words, and it's like I don't know Norse, and I don't know Scandinavian languages or letters or anything like that, so I cannot say any of this. But so other than like the story of where he's like trapped to a like a rock with like the venom and all of that coming down. There's another story where he does a lot of insults, and almost every single one of these stories, he insults gods, he insults like caretakers or people or anything like that. Um, but he he like he he insults somebody, and then another person like will chime in, and then he literally tells them, I could not bear to hear that, and then he just kills them. Like he just kills the servant because he just doesn't want to hear it. And then in response, the gods grab their shields, shrieking at Loki, and chase him out of the hall into the woods. The gods then return to the hall and continue drinking. So like they're in some hall. Oh, they're flighting with other gods. That's what it is. Flight. Do you know what flighting is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So they're
drink, like
flighting with
the drink. Yeah. Okay.
it's a exchange of insults between two parties.
Oh, okay. Then no.
Um, it's like a verse. Like you have to like rhyme.
It's a rap battle.
Basically, that's literally what it is. It's a rap battle. Um, but then uh so like they're flighting, he puts in insult, somebody else chimes in, people praise them for like a great rap battle basically. Loki's like nope, and then kills them, and then they chase Loki off into it. Loki comes out of the woods and meets this person outside of the hall. Loki greets them, elder I guess. And this is kind of like where the poem begins. He demands Eldir tell him what the gods are discussing over their ale inside the hall. Eldir responds that they discuss that their weapons and power rests in war. Um, but no one's saying anything nice about Loki. Loki says that he'll go into the feast, and that before the end of the feast, he will induce a quarreling among the gods and mix their mead with malice. Eldir responds that if shouting and fighting you pour out onto the gods, they'll wipe it off on you. Loki enters the hall and everyone falls silent upon noticing him. So he's literally just stirring the fucking pot. That's all he's doing. That's all he wants to do. Like he's the cereal.
Right.
That's what he is. He's a cereal. So breaking the silence, Loki says that he's thirsty. He had come to these halls from a long way away to ask the gods for a drink of the famous mead. So obviously, like this has been a while, not a while, but like it's not the same day, basically. He's calling the gods arrogant. Loki asks why they are unable to speak and demands that they assign him a seat and a place for him at the feast or tell him to leave. Um, Bragi, a skaldic god, is the first to respond to Loki by telling him that Loki will not have a seat in place assigned to him by the gods at the feast, for the gods know what man they should invite. Loki does not respond to Bragi directly, but instead directs his attention to Odin. Odin, he tells Odin that basically, like, Odin, do you remember when we mixed our blood together, like we're blood brothers? You said that you would never drink ale unless it were brought to both of us. So, like, bitch, where's mine?
Right, excuse me.
Yeah. So Odin then asks his silent son, Vidar, to stand up so that Loki, and in this poem he is referred to as the wolf's father, not Loki, may sit at the feast. Um, so then he stands, pours a drink for Loki. Prior to drinking, Loki declaims a toast to the gods and a specific exception for Bragi. Bragi responds that he will give a horse, sword, and ring from his possessions so that he does not repay the gods with hatred. Loki responds that Bragi will always be short of all these things, accusing him of being wary of war and shy of shooting. Damn. Bragi responds that they were outside of Aegir's hall. Bragi would be holding Loki's head as a reward for his lies. Loki replies that Bragi is brave when seated, calling him a bench ornament, and that Bragi would run away when troubled by an angry spirited man. Um, the goddess Idun interrupts, asking Bragi, as a service to his relatives and adopted relatives, not to say words of blame to Loki in Aegir's hall. Loki tells Idun to stay silent, calling her the most man-crazed of all women, and saying that she placed her washed
Damn.
right arms around her brother's slayer. Idun says that she will not say words of blame in Aegir's hall and affirms that she what? Quieted, basically, Bragi, who was made talkative by beer, and that she does not want the two of them to fight. The goddess, Gefjun, asks why the two gods must fight, saying that Loki knows that he is joking and that all living things love him. Loki responds to Gefjun by stating that Gefjun's heart was once seduced by a white boy who gave her a jewel, and when Gefjun laid her, literally, it's in quotes, white boy,
What the hell?
who gave her a jewel and who Gefjun laid her thigh over. Like, Loki's just like, all right, you want to cast me out? Here I come. Odin says that Loki must be insane to make Gefjun his enemy, as her wisdom about the fates of men may equal Odin's own. Loki says that Odin does a poor job in handing out honor in war to men, and that he's often given victory to the faint-hearted. Odin responds that even if it is true, Loki, in story otherwise unattested, once spent 8 winters beneath the earth as a woman milking cows, and during this time bore children. Odin declares this perverse. Loki encounters that Odin once practiced satyr, a type of sorcery, on the island Samsey, which is located in Denmark, and appearing as a wizard traveling among mankind, which Loki condemns as perverse. Frigg, a major deity who is married to Odin, it's Freya, says that what Loki and Odin did in the ancient past should not be spoken of in front of others, and that ancient matters should always remain hidden. Loki brings up that Frigg is the daughter of Fjorgyn, a personification of the earth, and that she had once taken Odin's brother, Vili and Ve, into her embrace. Frigg responds that if there was a boy like her now to see son Balder in the hall, Loki would not be able to escape from the wrath of the gods. Loki reminds Frigg that he is responsible for the death of her son Balder.
Okay, I just did a little bit of research because I was like, wait a second, because we're in Scandinavia, right? Like this is like Sweden, like they're all white. Not all of them, obviously. Every like region has its like minorities, but especially in the ancient history, a vast majority of the continent is white. So
I
for them to like
know.
specify a white boy, I'm just like rolling.
Yeah. I wonder, though, because like they were always outside, they were always working. If they were like
Maybe.
not necessarily dirty, but tanned or tanner, more tan.
Yeah.
And like
And
white
so
meant
like
that it
yeah,
didn't
like
work. They were inside.
okay, that would make sense, I guess. Like cuz I was just like what?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Um, the goddess Freya declares that Loki must be mad, stating that Frigg knows all fate, yet she does not speak it. Loki claims that each of the gods and elves that are present have been Freya's lover. Freya replied, Why did they like, huh? Freya and Frigg are the same thing.
No, they're not.
They're not?
No.
I thought they were. Oh, okay. Well, fuck me, I guess. All right, the goddess Freya declares that Loki must be mad, stating that Frigg knows all fate, yet she does not speak it. Loki claims that each of the gods and elves that are present have been Freya's lover. Freya replies that Loki is lying and that she just wants to yelp about wicked things, that gods and goddesses are furious with him, and that he will go around home thwarted. In response, Loki calls Freya a malicious witch and claims that Freya was once astride her brother Freyr when all of the other laughing gods surprised her and Freya went then farted.
What is happening?
The scenario is otherwise unattested. However, Freya and Freyr's father says that it is harmless for a woman to have a lover of or someone else beside her husband, and that what is surprising is a pervert god come in here who has born children. How is that? Oh, God, because it's not a goddess. That's right. Okay. Loki tells Norder to be silent, recalling Norder's status as once having a hostage from the Vanir to the Aesir during the Aesir Vanir War. Because remember, Freya is Vanir, and Aesir is what Odin is.
Yeah.
Um, that the daughters of Hymir once used Norder's as a once used Norder as a piss pot, urinating in
Oh.
his mouth.
Huh?
Norder responds that this was his reward when he was sent as a hostage to the Aesir, and that he fathered his son, Freyr, whom no one hates and is considered a prince of the Aesir. Loki tells Norder to maintain his moderation and that he will not keep it secret any longer, that Norder fathered this son and with his sister, although one would expect him to be worse than he turned out. The god Tyr defends Freyr, to which Loki replies that Tyr should be silent, for Tyr cannot deal straight with people, and points out that Loki's son, the wolf Fenrir, who tore Tyr's arm or hand off, because he is now one-handed, because Tyr had his arm bitten off by Fenrir while Fenrir was bounded. Um, Loki lost the wolf, but Tyr lost his hand, and trouble has come to both of them, is what Tyr told him. Further, that Fenrir must now wait in shackles until the onset of Ragnarok. Loki tells Tyr to be silent a second time and states that Tyr's wife had a son by Loki and that Tyr never received any compensation for this injury, further calling him a wretch. Um,
Alrighty then.
oh, good. We're okay. We're almost done with the insults. Freyr himself interrupts at this point and says that he sees a wolf lying before a river mouth, and that unless Loki is immediately silent like the wolf, Loki shall also be bound until Ragnarok. Loki retorts that Freyr purchased his consort Greater or Gerder with gold, having given away his sword, which he will lack at Ragnarok. Bigvir, who is a servant of Freyr, says that if he had as noble a lineage and as an honorable a seat as Freyr, he would grind down Loki and make all of his limbs lame. Loki refers to Bigvir in terms of a dog and says that Bigvir is always found at Freyr's ears, a twittering beneath a grindstone. Bigvir says that he is proud to be here by all the gods and men, and that he is said to be speedy. Loki tells him to be silent, that Bigvir does not know how to apportion food among men, and that he hides among the straw in days when men go to battle. The god Heimdall says that Loki is drunk and witless, and says Loki why he will not stop speaking. Loki tells Heimdall to be silent and that he was fated a hateful life, that Heimdall must always have a muddy back and serve as watchman of the gods. The goddess Skadi says that while Loki now appears lighthearted and playing with his tail wagging, he will soon be bound with his ice cold son's guts in a sharp rock by the gods. And this is all before this, like, that happened. Loki says that even if this is his fate, that he was first and foremost with the other gods at the killing of Scotty's father. Scotty says that with these events in mind, baneful advice will always come from her sanctuaries and plains to Loki. Loki says that Scotty was once gentler in speech to him, referring to himself as the son of Laufey. When Scotty once invited him to her bed, an event that was, I guess, written elsewhere as well, and that such events must be mentioned if they are to recall shameful deeds. Sif, which is Thor's wife, goes forth and pours Loki a glass of mead into a crystal cup in a prose narrative. Continuing the poem, Sif welcomes Loki and invites him to take a crystal cup filled with an ancient mead and says that among the children of the Aesir, she is singularly blameless. Loki takes the horn, drinks it, and says that she would be, if it were so, and states that Sif and Loki had been lovers despite the marriage to Thor. Bela,
Whoops.
who was uh-oh. Bela, who is also a servant of Freyr, says that all of the mountains are shaking and that she thinks Thor must be on his way home, and when Thor arrives, he will bring peace to those that quarrel there. Loki tells Bela to be silent, that she is much imbued with malice, that no worse woman has ever been among the Aesir's children, and calling her a bad serving wench. So, what happens next is.
So he's just in here straight up roasting people.
Oh, yeah, he just literally is like, all right, you guys got pissed off because, like, I killed somebody. All right, I'm coming back for, like, vengeance. So Thor arrives and tells Loki to be silent, referring to him as an evil creature, stating that with his hammer Mjolnir, he will silence Loki by hammering his head from his shoulders. Acknowledging that Thor has arrived, Loki asks Thor why he is raging and says that Thor will not be so bold to fight against the wolf when he swallows Odin at Ragnarok. Thor again tells Loki to be silent and threatens him with Mjolnir, adding that he will throw Loki up on the roads to the east, and therefore no one will be able to see Loki. Loki states that Thor should never brag of his journeys to the east, claiming that Thor crouched cowering in the thumb of a glove, mockingly referring to him as a hero, and adding that such behavior was unlike Thor. Thor responds by telling Loki to be silent, threatening him with Mjolnir, and adding that every one of Loki's bones will be broken with it. Loki says that he intends to live for a long while yet, despite Loki or Thor's threats and taunts. Thor about an encounter Thor once had with the Skrimir, which it was literally Loki in disguise. Thor again commands Loki to be silent, threatens Loki with Mjolnir, and says he will send Loki to hell below the gates of Nagrand. In response to Thor, Loki says that he spoke before the Aesir and before the sons of the Aesir what his spirit urged him to say, yet before Thor alone he will leave, and as he knows that Thor does strike, Loki ends the poetic verses with a final stanza. Ale you brood, Aegir, and you will never again hold a feast. All your possessions which are here inside may flame play over them, and may your back be burnt. Following this final stanza, a prose section details that after Loki left the hall, he disguised himself as a salmon and hid in the waterfall where the Aesir caught him. The narrative continues that Loki was bound with the entrails of his son, and his son changed into a wolf. Skadi fastened a venomous stake over Loki's face, and from it poison dripped. Sigyn, his spouse, sat with him holding a basin beneath the dripping venom. Yet, when the basin became full, she carried the poison away, and during this time the poison dripped to Loki, causing him to writhe with such violence that all of the earth shook from the force, resulting in what Earth is now known as earthquakes.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of people think that in 1835, somebody first brought on a major theory that Loki is the god of fire. A few years later, somebody theorized that Loki is the variant of Lucifer to Christianity, so the fallen version. Um, and that's kind of brought on and on and on since then. But the one thing that has stayed is literally that he has been um, consistently the trickster god. Um, and he also has like I've seen in other places too that he's got like snakes are his um what is it? Like snakes are like one of his things. So like if you have like a snake skin, you can always offer it up to him as like, here you go, have a snake skin, god of snakes, but not really snakes kind of thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's Loki.
All right.
Yay.
Yay. Look at us doing a full hour on a folklore.
But all right. Until next time.
Bye.